It started as just another electrifying night on The Tonight Show, until a folded piece of paper landed on stage and Lady Gaga read words that made her stop singing mid-breath and changed everyone in that studio forever. Studio 6B was pulsing with energy, the kind of electric anticipation that only came with certain artists. Tonight, Lady Gaga was returning to The Tonight Show to perform from her latest album and talk about her ongoing advocacy for mental health and LGBTQ+ youth. The iconic New York City skyline glittered through the studio's massive LED backdrop, and the audience was a kaleidoscope of colors, rainbow flags, glitter, homemade signs declaring "Born This Way saved my life." Jimmy Fallon had been looking forward to this interview for weeks. Conversations with Gaga always went beyond promotion. They touched on art, identity, survival, and the responsibility that came with using your voice for people who hadn't found theirs yet. What nobody knew during the pre-show excitement was the story sitting in row 12, seat 9. 17-year-old Alex Chen sat perfectly still between her parents, her hands folded carefully around a piece of notebook paper that had been folded and unfolded so many times the creases had worn thin. On that paper, written in the desperate handwriting of a 15-year-old who saw no future, were the words, "I can't do this anymore. Nobody will ever accept who I am. Tonight I end the pain." That note had been written 2 years ago on a February night when Alex, then still presenting as Andrew, had decided that living as her authentic self was impossible. Her parents had rejected her identity. Kids at school had made her life unbearable, and the weight of pretending to be someone she wasn't had become too heavy to carry. But something had stopped her that night, a song playing on her laptop, a voice singing about being beautiful in your own way, about God making no mistakes. "Born This Way" by Lady Gaga. Alex had sat on her bedroom floor, pen hovering over that suicide note, and listened to those words over and over until sunrise. The note remained unfinished. Alex remained alive. The show opened with Jimmy's monologue, earning genuine laughter that rippled through the audience. When he introduced Lady Gaga, the studio erupted, 300 people on their feet, showing the kind of love that went beyond fandom into genuine gratitude. Gaga walked onto the stage in an elegant black suit with rainbow threading along the lapels, subtle but unmistakable. She hugged Jimmy warmly, waved to the audience with that characteristic blend of superstar confidence and genuine humility, and settled into the guest chair. "Lady Gaga, everybody," Jimmy said, his enthusiasm genuine. "Thank you so much for being here. Your new music is incredible, but I want to start by talking about your foundation and the work you're doing for mental health." Gaga's expression shifted into something more serious, more grounded. "Thank you, Jimmy. You know, when I talk about mental health and LGBTQ+ youth, it's not abstract for me. I hear from young people every day who are struggling with who they are, who feel like the world has no place for them, and I want them to know there is a place. You belong here." As she spoke, her eyes naturally scanned the audience, a habit she developed from years of connecting with fans. That's when she saw it. A young person in row 12 holding something carefully, crying quietly. Not the happy crying of being at a concert, the other kind, the kind Gaga recognized because she'd been there herself. But it was what happened next that nobody expected. The young person Alex stood up suddenly, her hand trembling. Before security could react, before anyone could stop her, she folded the paper she'd been holding and threw it toward the stage with surprising accuracy. The paper arced through the air and landed near Gaga's feet. The studio fell silent. Security started moving forward, but Gaga held up her hand, stopping them. She looked at Alex, then at the paper, then back at the teenager whose face was streaked with tears. "It's okay," Gaga said softly, speaking to security but keeping her eyes on Alex. "It's okay." She reached down and picked up the paper, unfolded it carefully, and began to read. Jimmy watched as Gaga's expression transformed. The color drained from her face, her hands began to shake. When she looked up, tears were streaming down her cheeks. "Jimmy," Gaga said, her voice breaking, "I need to do something. Is that okay?" Jimmy didn't hesitate. "Whatever you need." Gaga stood up, holding the paper like it was made of glass. She walked to the edge of the stage, looking directly at Alex. "Did you write this?" Gaga asked gently. Alex nodded, unable to speak. "Will you come down here, please? I need to talk to you." Alex looked at her parents. Her mother was crying. Her father nodded encouragingly. Together, the three of them made their way down to the stage area. Gaga met them halfway, stepping down from the stage entirely. She held up the paper, her voice steady despite the tears. "This is a suicide note," Gaga said, addressing the entire studio now, written 2 years ago by a 15-year-old who felt so alone, so unwanted, so convinced that the world had no place for them, that ending their life seemed like the only option. The studio was completely silent. Even the roots had stopped moving. Gaga looked at Alex. "But you're here, you're standing right in front of me. What happened?" Alex took a shaky breath. When she spoke, her voice was small but clear. "I heard your song, Born This Way. It was playing on my laptop and I listened to it over and over. And I realized that maybe I was supposed to be here. That maybe being trans wasn't something to die over. It was something to live for." Gaga pulled Alex into an embrace, and the teenager dissolved into sobs. The kind of crying that comes from years of holding everything in, from carrying weight that no 15-year-old should have to carry. "You are so brave," Gaga whispered, loud enough for the microphones to catch. "You are so brave." When they pulled apart, Gaga turned to Alex's parents, still holding the teenager's hand. "And you're her parents?" Alex's mother nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'm her mother. This is her father." Gaga looked at them for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried no judgment, only curiosity. "When did you write this note, sweetheart?" 2 years ago, Alex said. "Before I came out, when I was still trying to be someone I wasn't." "And your parents," Gaga said gently. "How did they react when you told them who you really were?" Alex's father stepped forward. He was a tall man with graying hair, wearing a simple button-down shirt. When he spoke, his voice cracked with emotion. "I didn't react well," he said honestly. "I'm not proud of it. When Alex came out to us, I said things I deeply regret. I told her it was a phase. I refused to use her name or pronouns. I thought I was protecting my child, but I was destroying her." He paused, wiping his eyes. "It took me 2 years to understand, 2 years to educate myself, 2 years to realize that I didn't lose a son. I finally got to meet my daughter, the daughter who had been there all along, just waiting for me to see her." The studio erupted in applause, but Gaga held up her hand for silence. "What changed?" she asked. Alex's mother answered. "We almost lost her. 6 months after she came out, she took pills. We found her in time, rushed her to the hospital, and sitting in that emergency room, not knowing if our child would survive, we realized that all our fears about trans identity, all our worries about what people would think, none of it mattered compared to having our daughter alive." Jimmy was openly crying now, not bothering to hide it. "Alex," Gaga said, kneeling down slightly to be at eye level with the teenager, "I want you to know something. That song you heard that night? I wrote it for people exactly like you. I wrote it for every kid who's been told they're too different, too weird, too much of themselves. Because being yourself is never too much. It's exactly enough." She held up the suicide note. "Can I keep this?" Gaga asked. "Not to display it or exploit it, but to remind myself why I do what I do. To remember that songs aren't just entertainment, sometimes they're lifelines." Alex nodded, crying again. But Gaga wasn't finished. She turned to address the entire studio, still holding Alex's hand. "I want everyone here to understand something. LGBTQ youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than their peers. 4 times trans youth face even higher rates. And why? Because we live in a world that tells them they're wrong for existing, that tells them their identity is up for debate, that treats their lives like they're less valuable than someone's comfort level." She looked directly into the camera. "If you're watching this and you're struggling with your identity, if you're afraid to tell your family who you really are, if you've written your own note and you're not sure you can keep going, please hear me. You are not alone. You are loved, and your life has value beyond anything you can imagine right now." Gaga turned to Alex's father. "Sir, would you be willing to say something to other parents who might be going through what you went through?" Alex's father nodded, stepping forward. "If your child comes out to you as LGBTQ+, as trans, as anything that scares you because it's unfamiliar, please listen. Please educate yourself before you react. Please remember that your child trusted you enough to share their truth, and that trust is sacred. He looked at Alex with unconditional love. I almost lost my daughter because I chose ignorance over love. Don't make my mistake. Choose love first. Always choose love first. The audience erupted again, and this time Gaga let the applause continue. She and Alex embraced again, and Alex's parents joined them, creating a circle of healing that represented years of pain transforming into hope. When the applause finally died down, Gaga made one more gesture. She removed the small rainbow pin from her lapel, a pin she'd worn to every major event for the past 5 years, and pinned it to Alex's jacket. "This stays with you," Gaga said, "as a reminder that you're part of a community that sees you, accepts you, and celebrates you exactly as you are." Jimmy finally spoke, his voice thick with emotion. "I think we all needed to witness this tonight. This is what matters. Not the music, not the fame, not any of it. This connection, acceptance, love." Gaga returned to her chair, but the interview had fundamentally changed. Every answer she gave, every story she told was now colored by the understanding that her words had literal power over life and death. Near the end of the show, Gaga did something unprecedented. She looked at Alex, still standing with her parents near the stage, and asked, "Would you like to hear Born This Way? Right now? Just for you?" Alex nodded, unable to speak. What happened next was pure magic. Gaga stood up and began singing a cappella. No backing track, no production, just her voice filling the studio with that anthem of self-acceptance. When she reached the chorus, she gestured for Alex to join her. At first, Alex shook her head, too overwhelmed, but her parents gently encouraged her, and slowly, hesitantly, Alex began to sing along. 2 voices, 2 stories, 1 message. You are exactly who you're supposed to be. The entire audience joined in, 300 voices creating a harmony that was imperfect and powerful and absolutely perfect for what it represented. A community singing to one of its own, saying, "We see you, you belong here. Don't ever leave us." When the song ended, there wasn't a dry eye in Studio 6B. Alex Chen returned home that night carrying something she hadn't felt in years, hope. The suicide note stayed with Gaga, who kept her promise. She never displayed it publicly, but she carried it with her as a reminder of why visibility matters, why representation saves lives, why speaking your truth can be someone else's lifeline. 3 months later, Gaga announced a new initiative through her Born This Way Foundation, a 24/7 crisis line specifically for LGBTQ+ youth, staffed by trained counselors who understood the unique challenges of identity and acceptance. The announcement featured Alex's story with her permission and included a message from her parents about choosing love over fear. The Tonight Show episode became one of the most watched in the show's history, but more importantly, it sparked a national conversation about LGBTQ+ mental health, family acceptance, and the responsibility we all share to create a world where young people can be themselves without fear. Alex's father became an advocate, speaking at PFLAG meetings and sharing his journey from rejection to acceptance. His message was simple but powerful. Love your children for who they are, not who you thought they would be. And Alex? She continued living, thriving. She started a support group at her school for LGBTQ+ students. She spoke at her church about acceptance and faith. She wrote her college application essay about the night a song saved her life and the night she got to thank the artist who sang it. The suicide note that once represented an ending became a beginning. Proof that the darkest moments can transform into light if we just hold on long enough to see the sunrise. It wasn't just late-night television that night. It was a reminder that art matters, that visibility saves lives, that acceptance is not optional, it's essential, and that sometimes the most important thing a parent can say is the simplest: I see you, I love you, you are my child, and you are perfect exactly as you are. Some songs entertain, the best ones save lives.